you a beautiful look outside at the canal here in downtown Indianapolis to get your Friday morning started. 6 o'clock on your Friday. You have made it to the end of the work week. We thank you for waking up with us here on 13 Sunrise. I'm Sam, in for Julia, along with Julia and Matt. It's Friday. We made it.
I always say, you know, once I can get up and out of bed, yeah, done. That's the best part of it. Thanks for that shot down there in the canal. That's a beautiful shot, by the way. But yes, hopefully you'll be by maybe a bed of water somewhere, somehow, because the 90s are back, and we better take advantage.
Any way to cool off will be a good idea. But if you've been wanting more of that summer heat, because maybe this first week of August you're thinking, okay, I like the cool down, but was this too much?
Right.
I don't know. We'll have more of the heat on the way. Also, did you notice with the blue lights, it almost looked like a horseshoe?
I know, it's really cool.
Really nice. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but looks great out there.
Yeah.
It's a good start. I want to show you some of the temperatures out there this morning. It is 6 o'clock here, bright and early on a Friday. Tipton, 68. Good morning, Blue Devils. You head back to school today. I don't know, maybe you're doing it right. You go back on school on a Friday, and then you got the weekend right next door too. Maybe easy in that way. But a lot of us have been to school at least a day or so across central Indiana, maybe even a week for some. They're towards White County, Twin Lakes. We went back yesterday, but Frontier Schools, you'd be right about here, home of the Falcons. We go back to school today. I think that covers it for today. It's a small bunch today. A lot of kids went back earlier this week, but right now we're sitting in the 60s for many of us across central Indiana. Indianapolis is holding at 60 or 72. We're at 67 from Fishers to Carmel. Good morning in Zionsville at 64, 65 for Greenfield. Headed farther south, a couple low 70s to the south and west, but holding in 70 for the Arties, 69 both in Bedford and in Seymour. So it's a comfortable start. You'll notice a little bit more heat and humidity this morning and a lot more heat this weekend. But we're also keeping an eye on some of the patchy fog. We've had a little bit of every single morning, but down under a quarter mile there in Wayne County. And it looks like a little bit there in Fayette and Union counties as well, down to 1 in Greensburg, Newcastle, and Terre Haute. It looks like I've covered them, and 2-mile visibility in Anderson. So nothing crazy, but we are watching some fog develop this morning. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll also keep an eye on traffic this morning as you're waking up and headed out the door. Right now there is a slowdown already developing on I-65 in those northbound lanes coming into downtown, because we go down to 2 lanes on 65 North, and then we go down to 1 there by the south split. If you want to continue on 65 North, you've got to be in that right-hand side lane when you only have the 2 options, because it's very hard for you to cross over, especially as traffic starts to build. We're at a 6-minute delay now. But that's already at 6 o'clock, and traffic hasn't even quite built its full strength yet. We really see the peak right around 7:30 or so. But you see a lot of brake lights this morning headed northbound, and then pretty slow as you get towards the south split. So give yourself an extra at least 10 minutes or so if you're headed on I-65 North. Then we're keeping an eye out there towards Williamsburg Pike. This is the exit for Belden. Looks like they're getting a lot more done there in the middle of the interstate. Traffic's moving fine through this construction zone.
They don't have a right to see a judge.
Right.
They came here illegally.
Well, maybe very controversial comments by Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith when he was talking about undocumented immigrants, whether they should receive due process in the U.S., as you heard the crowd kind of speak out after he made those comments.
Yeah, he talked about this in a town hall over in Vigo County earlier this week, and those comments are now raising concerns with some immigration attorneys.
Our Anna Chalker is in studio this morning with more on what Beckwith said, but probably more importantly, what other people are saying about those comments. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. This has been a nationwide debate, as we've seen for months now, and it's back here in Indiana. And earlier this week, like you said, Micah Beckwith said that the undocumented immigrants do not have a right to see a judge if they're taken into custody. His comments echo a broader policy push from the Trump administration, and after the Department of Homeland Security announced a planned ICE detention center in the state. While undocumented immigrants do not have a guaranteed right to stay in the U.S., the Constitution does guarantee due process under the law. And our NBC affiliate in Terre Haute spoke with Beckwith on his comments. Here's what he had to say.
I'm going to tell you what I believe, why I believe it, and if you don't like the answer, I heard you. I just maybe don't agree with you, and so and that's okay. We live in a country where it's okay to have civil disagreements.
13 News did reach out to Beckwith and Governor Mike Braun's teams multiple times about these comments. We did not receive a response on those. We also spoke with an immigration attorney about this town hall, specifically what he said that made that crowd erupt really in that moment. At 6:30, you'll hear why she says, that comment was really just unconstitutional.
And kind of not the first time we've seen this from Lieutenant Governor Beckwith, maybe kind of also going out and just saying some controversial things that get people talking. So let's hope that's all this is about. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. Also this morning, we are taking a closer look at Vice President J.D. Vance's brief stop here in Indianapolis.
One focus we know was on the midterm redistricting. It's an unusual move and one Democrats call a power grab. Now, we really didn't see any of J.D. Vance while he was here in town, but we know that they've been seeing this play out in Texas as well, where President Trump has been backing a push to draw a new congressional map in an effort to pick up 5 additional House seats. Right now, Texas Democrats, as we know, are in another state just to block that vote from happening.
Here in Indiana, Republicans have not said that a redistricting is happening, but we know it was part of that conversation with the vice president, with Mike Braun and other state leaders yesterday. Hoosier Democrats say it's all but a done deal.
He's here to rig Indiana. Not because the people asked for it, not because it reflects our values, but because they are terrified of something bigger than themselves. You, the voters.
Congressional maps are typically redrawn after a census, which happens every 10 years.
Right now, Indiana has 9 districts. 7 of them are held by the GOP. 2 are held by Democrats, including here in Indianapolis. Meanwhile, hundreds of people got together at the State House to make their voices heard. They expressed opposition to the vice president and those plans to redraw the boundaries.
Kevin Galley is a retired attorney and a registered Democrat. He says he thought it was important to show up and stand up for democracy.
If you start with the fundamentals, the rule of law, separation of powers, the power that traditional institutions create in our governmental architecture, all those things are important. They're all being eroded very rapidly.
Galley tells us he hopes Governor Braun will use reason and caution here before making any decision on redistricting.
We have an update this morning. The Hancock County prosecutor says a deadly police shooting that happened in Greenfield was justified. This was back on July 7th at a home near State and Tegg Streets. Police got a call about some sort of domestic disturbance. That's when they say 54-year-old Ted Feasel answered the door but quickly closed it when officers tried to talk to him. When police opened the door again, they say Feasel was pointing a gun at officers. 3 officers fired their guns in response. Feasel was shot and killed.
Coming up on 6:08, IMPD is investigating after a woman told them 2 men made racial slurs at her and her family and then put a hole in her car door.
This happened Wednesday at a gas station up on the far northeast side. Rakita Spears Easter says this hole in the driver door of her car came from 2 men who were next to her at the Meijer gas station when she got there.
Now, she says the men made racial remarks and slurs when she pulled up, but she just ignored it. And then she said she locked her kids in the car in the back seat and went in to pay for the gas. But when she came back, she said her son was crying.
I noticed that the hole in my car. I asked my son what happened. He explained to me that the 2 gentlemen that were throwing out racial slurs when I first got to the gas station, one of them walked up and started either banging or pushing on this window, and then he yelled out some racial slurs and then took a tool from the vehicle that they were driving and swung it and hit my door.
Metro Police say they are investigating what happened and also looking for those responsible.
So police say if you happen to be at that gas station, maybe you saw something or heard something, police want to hear from you right away. An Anderson man will spend more than 5 years in federal prison for impersonating a Homeland Security officer and having Molotov cocktails. A federal judge also sentenced Joshua Stearman to 3 years of supervised release after his time in prison. So according to court documents, a witness saw Stearman approach a house carrying something, and then he ran away when security lights came on. Officers say He showed them a driver's license, which they say ultimately was a fake government ID when cops pulled him over. Officers say they then found 4 bottles filled with gas, cloth wicks, and wood pieces, and a lighter in his car.